Hello and happy Thursday. I am Tara Hewlett with Back Pain and Joint Center of Texas, and today I am so excited to share with you guys. We are going to make stuffed bell peppers. So this dish we have been making, oh my goodness, since I think the beginning of our marriage. So a good 17 years or so. So it's super yummy, super easy, and good for you. I actually saw the recipe first. It was actually with stuffed tomatoes, and I used to make that too. And back in the day when you would get newspaper regularly to your house. So that tells you how old this recipe is. So I'm so excited to share it with you. So I'm gonna show you a couple different options that we do when we make it, and you can change it up, which I like when you can have a kind of a recipe and then make it into different things. So behind me, I already have started some quinoa. Can't think. And so I took 1 cup of quinoa with 2 cups of water and brought it to a boil and just covered it so now it can simmer and cook down. So while that's going, so it's about 10-15 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and start on the rest. Today I'm gonna use, because it's what I have on me, is some ground bison. So you can use anything. I have ground bison, which is good. We like it. Some people don't love gamey as much, but if you can totally, I usually make this with ground beef. You can use ground beef, or if you want to use ground turkey, you can use ground turkey for this too. So any of those that you might happen or like, go ahead and use. So go ahead and have your ground meat thawed out, and we're just going to take it and throw it in a pan on the stove. There we go. Go ahead and turn that over medium-ish high, not all the way medium high, but a little bit beyond medium heat. And we'll start to just give that a little break up so it's not one big lump. Break it up just a little bit, not all the way, just a little, and let that start to cook. So while that is cooking, we're gonna take an onion and we're gonna chop it up. I already have one because I started it a little bit earlier. So I have a diced onion here. We'll throw that in there with our meat to cook. And then we'll take some garlic cloves. So I typically will do anywhere between 3 to 4 garlic cloves, depending on the size of the garlic. Like some pieces are way bigger than others, and some are teeny tiny. So these ones are pretty average. So you could do 3 to 4. I'm gonna do 4 because I love garlic. It's got so many health benefits. It's so good for you. So I'm gonna do 4, and I'll show you. Goodness, if I can get the wrapper off. This is like a good normal size piece of garlic. It's not enormous or teeny tiny. So either 3 or 4, like I said. Go ahead and take the wrapper off, and we're gonna dice these all up. And you can use the ones already minced if you want, and you can use a mincer. I'm just not the biggest fan of a mincer unless I absolutely have to use it. I don't know why. I'm sure it's a lot easier, but this is not my favorite. All right, so we're gonna dice this up, and then we'll toss this in there with our ground beef and our onion. The last few onions I have gotten have been super powerful. You never know which one's a really good onion, and it just makes your eyes water like crazy. All right, so let's go ahead. We have our garlic diced up, and we'll just toss it in here. With our meat, go ahead and give that a little mix. And then you start to work on crumbling it a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna let that sit some more. and in there, let's go ahead and add some salt and pepper. So here, we like to use real salt. So the real salt is like, it says it's an ancient fine salt, but it's in the, I believe it's in the Utah mountains. And so they go in there and it's just super old, and they just scrape it down and try to use as many clean tools as possible. They don't try not to bring a ton in, but to harm the salt and keep it as pure as possible. So it's a really good salt. If not, if you don't have real salt, stick with a sea salt or a pink Himalayan salt. Those are your two best options. Do not use table salt. That is not good for you. And then just a black pepper. My favorite is just, if you can get the mixed ones as much as possible, different like flavors of peppers. So I'm gonna take a couple, so let me clarify. So on this real salt, do you see how there's different levels you can spin it? So I have it on like just a few dots. So it looks like I'm shaking a lot of salt out, but it's hardly any. So go ahead and give it a little bit of salt, and then a couple cracks of our cracked pepper. So with cracked pepper, I like to be able to like start to see it. So if you can start to just see right there in the middle, the cracked pepper, that's when I feel like, all right, I have enough in there to give it some flavor, but not too much to overpower it. So we'll go ahead and mix that in there. All right. So now we're gonna go ahead and take some fresh parsley we have here and just cut off the tops of the leaves of our parsley. And then I just kind of, once I cut it, I just scrunch it and roll it up like this. So then I can get in there really fine to cut that all up. Now remember, if you don't have fresh parsley on hand, you can use dry. You're just not gonna need as much. I would probably do like a teaspoon of dry, max teaspoon and a half. So you're not gonna need a ton. You have to go more with the fresh. Okay, let's go ahead and throw that in there. And we're gonna add a little bit of thyme leaves, and let's do, let's see. Yeah, a half of a teaspoon of the thyme leaves, and then a teaspoon of oregano. So just take your oregano, dry oregano, and if you have fresh, you can go ahead and use your fresh herbs. And then I'm gonna take some fresh, I happen to have some fresh basil leaves, so I'll use some of those as well. And so this dish, like I said, I love it because you can make it so many different ways. So initially years ago, I would make it almost with more of a, just cumin and oregano and like cilantro. So more of a, like a Mexican flavor you could put in there. This one today, I'm doing a little bit more Italian-like. So then we'll take our basil, throw that in there, and then we'll give it a stir. So we can mix all of our herbs up in with our meat and help it all get that good flavor. So each bite has some of that. All right, so then while we have that cooking, let's go ahead. I'm gonna put mushrooms in mine. I'm gonna take like 4 mushrooms, medium size-ish. This one's a little bit smaller than this one. And let's give it a rinse. Just wanna rinse them off so you can get some of that dirt that happens to be on them. Now, the correct way with the mushroom, which I usually don't do, is you just get a wet paper towel and you wipe them down. They say you shouldn't actually rinse them. It disturbs them somehow, I don't know. But I figure I'm about to cook them, so it's okay. So I always usually rinse mine. I feel like it's a little easier. So I slice it and then I'll dice them up. You don't want them to be too big of a chunk in there for this dish. We just want them diced. Same thing, just go through, slice and dice them. All right. So yeah, like I said, since today I'm doing more of Italian stuffed bell pepper with you guys. I'm doing mushrooms. So if you like before, I wouldn't do the mushrooms. I would have just done the meat and rice, or I can put like black beans in there. I used to sometimes do corn. Corn is not your best option to add. It's not healthy. It's a GMO crop. And not much nutrition and nutrients are in corn. So try to eliminate your corn where you can. All right, so now that we have this all diced up, we're gonna do the same thing. Add that to our pan. And if you wanted to do this more of a vegetarian dish, you could just eliminate the meat and only do mushroom. Mushroom is a great substitute for meat. It kind of has that same similar texture. So you would just probably need like 2 cartons of mushroom to do that. And I probably would dice it, but just not super fine. But all right, quinoa is almost done. All right, so now, because I feel like we all need more vegetables in our lives, and the more spinach I can give my kids or kale, the better. So today I'm gonna go spinach. And so I'm just gonna take I just buy this bundle of spinach. I'm just gonna take a couple handfuls, because you're like, okay, if a handful, that's like roughly a cup. And what is so great about spinach is it cooks down super small. So it looks like, you're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of spinach, right, piled up. I might even do 3 handfuls because, you know, that's better. Same thing, I'll kind of scrunch it as best I can and just give it a fine slice. So we're cutting them pretty thin there. And then we're gonna toss this in there so it can cook down. And then you really don't even notice it. It ends up being so thin, it's kind of like an herb in there. But then you're all getting your spinach and veggies in it that we all know we could eat more of and need more. So if you can, I feel like the more recipes we can kind of toss them in, nobody's noticing, the better. And I see like my kids, but I know husbands and wives don't always love it either. So even for yourself, if you're not a huge spinach lover or kale lover, I just have spinach on us today, so I'm using spinach. You could do either one. So try to get that as fine as possible, just so it's not a huge chunk. And like I said, isn't as noticeable. Nobody's like, oh, there's spinach in my dish. So, all right. So we have it pretty little pieces here. So we're just gonna take that, which it looks like a lot, but I promise it's not gonna be. And add that now to our plate, or to our and give that a mix. So like if you look at it right now, it looks like, oh, that's a lot of spinach in there. Wait till it starts to shrivel up, and it's not gonna be hardly anything at all. So we gave it a mix. We're gonna put it back on the stove, let that cook. Let's take a look at our quinoa is done, so we can turn that off. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the bell pepper part. So we take our bell peppers, you know, and let's take off the stickers and give them a good little rinse here. Okay, and so what we're gonna do, you can do this 2 ways. I'm gonna show you the way we like it best. We cut ours in half, So just right down the middle, and you'll have 2 halves here. So then I just take out the middle part where the seeds are, and you don't want to go too far. You just want to get right where that stem was and pull that part out. So then now you have this, and just pull out those little pieces there a little bit. So we just end up with like this. So we end up with 2 halves. So we're gonna do the same thing on this other one. Pull it out, and let's clean it up just a little bit. So we have a half there. And then you could, then if you want to do it standing up, you can. I don't, because I'm not going to say my whole family's a whole bell pepper stuffed. They usually just take a half. And you just cut the circle here and then pull it out. Okay, go ahead and, so you're just going to cut around the stem. I feel like the other way is easier too. This looks pretty because it's a whole bell pepper stuff, and you just pull out the seed part and then dump out whatever's, like there's a little bit still in there, so just bang on it and then clean it out. And then you would just put the stuffing there. But like I said, we prefer to cut it in half. So I'm gonna cut mine in half, and then that gives me 4 halves from 2. So we usually do 3 total bell peppers for our family of 6. All right, actually, all right, take that back. We eat the 3, but when I make this dish, I actually buy 4. I buy 4 bell peppers because so I'm gonna half the 3 to make 6 little halves, and then the 4th one, I'm gonna take and slice it up, and I'm gonna add that to our mixture. So we have some bell pepper in the mix as well. So go ahead and do the same thing. Dice it. Now, typically, I would have added this a little sooner since bell peppers are a little bit thicker than like spinach and stuff to soften up. But I forgot to throw it in there a second ago. So let's go ahead and throw this, dice it all up. Most of this you're going to want to keep diced on a good fine level since you don't want a huge mushroom or bell pepper or anything in your bite. Like I said, I love this because it's so many different varieties of ways. I mean, if you didn't want to do a green, you could add inside of red or an orange bell pepper. It's just so many varieties that it's nice that you can like take one recipe and make it and then kind of start to make it your own with whatever you like and switch it up to different themed, dish you want for it. Okay, so I have it all diced, so I'm gonna throw it in there. This one was one of the ones that it didn't have an orange, but it was partly still orange. It wasn't all the way green. All right, let's give that a mix. Smells so good. I always am big on smelling my food. That's how I know, like, do I need to add more herbs? So I kind of give it a smell. All right. Probably add a little bit more pepper to it. Okay. All right, so now we just take our quinoa that we had over here cooking, and we just dump it straight in, super easy. Now, what I love about this is we typically will add brown rice. Today we did quinoa. So you can do either one. So take your quinoa, and we're just gonna mix it in. And with the quinoa, if you wanna have different flavors while it was cooking, you can cook it in like a broth or add herbs to it. I just did water. I did plain since I was gonna have enough of with the meat mixture that it'll flavor it enough. Okay, so here we go. This, oh my goodness, looks so good. If you can tell, we have in here our quinoa, our ground. Tonight we use bison. You can use ground beef, like I said, or ground turkey. If you want to do, like I said, vegetarian, you just do mushrooms. You would need a lot more. You can see some of our leaves of spinach in there, and our different herbs, and our bell pepper. Oh, so what I love is that it's so full of nutrition in here. You have the, your carb with the quinoa, but it's a good carb for you. Then we have our meat and our spinach and mushrooms and bell peppers, so good veggies as well. So now we're gonna take our mixture and we're just gonna scoop it straight in to our bell peppers and stuff them and kind of pat them down and then tuck that down. And then I just take a glass pan, baking dish, and I just set them like this. And as I stuff them, lay them out side by side. And super, like I said, super easy, not a long meal, but good and healthy. So when we do these recipes, we always, here at our house, we do follow a low inflammation diet, which consists of no gluten, dairy, or sugar. Those are important things to eliminate from your everyday. Oh, here, let me show you this real quick. So sometimes you get a bell pepper that's more rounded at the bottom, like this one, and it just wants to tip over and spill out. So I just prop it up against the side and it'll help it balance. So if you end up with one like that, don't worry about it. Just prop it up against the edge of the dish and you're fine. Okay, so I was saying, eliminating dairy, gluten, and sugar is good for you since those three things tend to cause our bodies to become more inflamed. And when our bodies are inflamed, they cannot heal and recover better, and we cause ourselves to get more sick and have different health issues. Or injuries that even can't recover. So when we eliminate those things, it helps our body to be in a better state overall of good health. And so we like to come on and share with you guys some of our everyday dishes and recipes that we cook here at the house that are inflammation, because I know sometimes it can seem overwhelming, like, what do we do with, especially those three things? They seem to be in everything. So like this, people would usually use like a white rice. So a substitute for a brown rice, or the quinoa is a better option to go. All right, so we have our bell pepper stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna then take some water here. And I just pour a little bit into the bottom of the dish till the bottom of the whole dish is coated. So it looks like it'll probably be like, for a 13 by 9, probably like a cup and a half. Because you don't want to do too much that then it gets into the bell peppers and then they end up soggy. We just want to cook so that it helps steam them so they become softer. And so we're gonna throw this in the oven at 375 for about 25-30 minutes. And then you can take them out. And then let me see, I did TV magic for you guys today. All right, so here you can see these ones have been in there for about 25 minutes. And you can see, let me grab a spatula, how the edges of them have gotten soft and the meat has gotten browned at the top. Do you see that? How we're like soft there and nice and toasty. So that's how you know you're ready to be done. The bell pepper's soft, and so then when you bite into it, it's not hard crunch, it's soft. So back in the day when I used to make this, and we did have dairy years ago, you would top it with a cheese, a mozzarella, when we did like Italian, a cheddar, if we did a Mexican dish with it. So today you can leave it like this, which we do, and if you want to do, and depending on where you are in a low inflammation diet, you can do a Parmesan dairy-free cheese. It's made like almond milk, and then you can just top it, the very tips, just put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on there. a dairy-free one, of course. Just sprinkle a little bit. And then we'll pop that. Let me grab another pad. So I'll bring my hand carrying it. You'll just pop this back in the oven for just like a few minutes for the cheese to melt. So see, doesn't that look so good? All right, well, you guys have a great day, and I will see you next week when I come on to share with you guys another favorite low inflammation diet of our families. You guys have a great day.